Have you ever asked yourself, why am I so sad if this was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life? Or maybe, why does it seem like everyone adapts except me? If more than 70% of women report significant emotional changes right after giving birth, why does no one talk about it honestly? Why does no one warn you that when your baby is born, an emotional storm is also born, one that can leave you confused, guilty, and even afraid of what you're feeling? If you're living this right, now, this deep sadness, this feeling of emptiness, this tightness in your chest, please breathe. This is not failure. This is being human. Today, I want to walk with you through this experience, explain what's really happening in your body, your mind, and your heart, and most importantly, show you that you are not alone. And before we start, go ahead and leave your like. Comment below if you're also going through this emotional whirlwind, and subscribe to the channel, because here, you'll never face the postpartum period without support again. Now, let's understand why you're feeling so sad after giving birth. Chapter 1. The invisible shock of postpartum. When the expected joy turns into emotional confusion, you've probably noticed how, during pregnancy, everyone prepares you for childbirth, but almost no one prepares you for what comes after. There's this almost cinematic expectation that the moment the baby is born, the mother will overflow with happiness, feel an instant connection, and naturally adapt to everything. But in real life, what happens is very different, and this gap between expectation and reality is one of the first reasons so many women feel shaken. In the silence of the night, when the baby finally sleeps and the house becomes quiet, many mothers notice an unexpected feeling, an emptiness, a sadness that appears without permission, even when everything should be fine. And it's devastating because it brings guilt. If I was so excited to be a mom, then why am I feeling this way? This emotional shock comes from the sudden rupture between the world before and after childbirth. You lose the routine you knew. You lose your sense of control. You lose even the familiarity with your own body. It's as if you are reborn alongside your baby, but without a manual, without preparation, and without rest. And there's more. No one tells you it's normal to feel contradictory things at the same time. You love your baby, but you also feel fear, exhaustion, irritability, fragility. You want to be with them all the time, but you also desperately want 1 minute of peace. And I tell you this with all the clinical and human experience I have, mixed feelings do not mean a lack of love. They mean your brain, your body, and your life have changed drastically in a matter of hours. The truth is that postpartum is an emotional impact of enormous magnitude and completely invisible to those on the outside. And this is exactly why so many women feel sad, because they're living something but silent. In the next chapter, I'll show you what happens inside your body, especially in your hormones, that makes this sadness appear so intensely. The moment your baby is born, your hormones begin a dramatic freefall, one of the fastest and most intense hormonal shifts the human body can experience. And this isn't just biochemistry, this is something you feel profundament in your mood, your energy, your clarity, your sense of self. It's that sudden heaviness in your chest, that urge to cry for no reason, that feeling of being overwhelmed even quando nada, ruum, a constitute. Right after birth, estrogen and progesterone, the hormones that were elevated throughout pregnancy and helped stabilize your emotional state, drop to almost pre-pregnancy levels within 48 hours. Imagine your brain trying to recalibrate in quanto voca lida com noi, sem dormir, dor fisica, beba totalmente dependent de voca. It's too much happening at once, and your nervous system does the only thing it can. It becomes emotionally sensitive, reactive, vulnerable. That's why up to 80% of new mothers experience what we call baby blues, sudden crying spells, mood swings, irritability, sadness, and that strange feeling of, I'm not myself. And even though this is common, it can feel terrifying because no one told you it would be like this. You might even think, am I losing control? But biologically, this is your body adjusting to a massive shift. Another piece people ignore, the hormone oxytocin. the so-called love hormone. Yes, it helps you bond with your baby, but it also increases emotional intensity. It makes everything feel bigger. A small worry feels like a threat. A minor frustration feels like a moment of solitude feels like abandonment. ISO now o drama. ISO o neuroquímica. On top of that, sleep deprivation amplifies every emotion. When you're not sleeping, your brain's ability to regulate stress drops dramatically. Tasks that felt simple before, like taking a shower or preparing a snack, can suddenly feel impossibles. And when the simplest things feel hard, sadness finds a spacco paracressor. But perhaps the hardest part is the silence around all this. Society tells you you're supposed to feel grateful, radiant, fulfilled. So when sadness shows up, you feel wrong. You feel ashamed. You hide it. And that isolation intensifies everything. The truth is, nothing is wrong with you. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do during this transition. These hormonal shifts are temporary, but they're powerful, and they deserve to be understood, not escondidos. When you understand what's happening biologically, you stop interpretando your feelings as weakness and start seeing them as part of a real physiological process. This sadness isn't a flaw. It's a signal. It's your body saying, I'm adjusting. Be gentle with me. There's a moment, often in the quiet between feedings, when the weight of everything suddenly lands on your shoulders. Not just the baby in your arms, but the invisible load that comes with keeping this tiny human alive. It's the responsibility of noticing every sound, every breath, every possible sign that something might be wrong. And even though you're doing your best, it feels like you can never fully rest. This mental overload is one of the biggest reasons so many new mothers feel sadness after giving birth. You're not just tired. You're carrying a level of responsibility that is constant, urgent, and often absolutely exhausting. You're expected to know what your baby needs even before you understand what you need. And when you can't immediately fix every cry, every fuss, every discomfort, guilt sneaks in and whispers, you should be doing better. But here's the truth. No one is instinctively prepared for this. The idea that a mother magically knows everything is a myth that causes more harm than good. In reality, every new parent is guessing, learning through trial, error, and a lot of self-doubt. And self-doubt is fertile ground for sadness. Then comes the pressure to keep the house running, to manage the visits, to respond to messages, to be polite, present, patient. You're healing from childbirth, functioning on broken sleep, emotionally raw, and still expected to smile when someone says, enjoy every moment. That comment alone can make a new mother feel like she's failing for not loving every second. And let's talk about the loneliness. Even when people are around, you can still feel completely alone. Because unless someone has lived this exact moment, breastfeeding with cracked nipples, holding in tears at 3 a.m., wondering if you'll ever feel normal again, they just don't fully understand. This emotional isolation, combined with the pressure to handle it all, creates a perfect storm for sadness. Your brain is also working overtime. Every decision feels high stakes. Should I wake the baby? Is she eating enough? Is this normal? And when your brain is constantly on alert, your body stays in survival mode. Survival mode doesn't leave room for joy, leaves room for endurance. And endurance is heavy. So if you feel sad, overwhelmed, or like the world is pressing down on you, it's not because you're weak or ungrateful. It's because you're carrying a mental and emotional load bigger than anything you've carried before. And no one should have to carry it alone. There's a quiet grief that almost no one warns you about. The grief for the version of yourself you left behind the moment your baby arrived. It's a strange kind of loss, because nothing bad happened. In fact, something beautiful did. But with that beauty comes a profound identity shift, and it can feel like you're standing between two worlds, who you were and who you're becoming. Maybe you miss the freedom to leave the house without planning every detail. Maybe you miss having control over your own body. Maybe you miss your work, your social life, your energy, your spontaneity, or simply the ability to sit in silence without being needed. And that longing can feel like betrayal, like loving your old life somehow means loving your baby less. But it doesn't. Missing your past is a human response to change, not a sign of failure. Motherhood isn't an addition, it's a transformation. You don't go back to who you were, you evolve. And evolution, even when it's beautiful, is painful. You're adjusting to the reality that your identity is no longer yours alone. Every decision, every routine, every moment now has another life woven in. That's a lot to hold emotionally, and sadness often appears as a natural part of this transition. There's also the loss of predictability. Before, you knew your rhythms, when you liked to wake up, what you liked to eat, how you liked to spend your time. Now those rhythms are replaced by feeding schedules, naps that may or may not happen, and a body that doesn't feel entirely familiar. It's hard not to feel disconnected from yourself. And then there's the loss of recognition. People might visit the baby and forget to ask how you are. Your needs become secondary, your feelings minimized, your exhaustion overlooked. Suddenly, your identity narrows to a single role, mother. And while motherhood is powerful, it's not the entirety of who you are. When the world forgets that, you start to forget it too. This is where sadness grows between who you were and who you're learning to be, between longing and responsibility, between love and exhaustion, between the life that ended and the new one that's only beginning to take shape. It's okay to mourn your old self while loving your baby with your whole heart. Both emotions can live in the same place, and allowing yourself to feel this grief is not only normal, it's part of what helps you eventually step into this new identity with strength, clarity, and compassion for everything you've survived. There's a line many mothers don't realize they've crossed until they're already deep in it. The line between normal baby blues and something more serious, something that needs attention, not endurance. And because so much of early motherhood feels overwhelming, it's easy to miss the signs that sadness has shifted from temporary adjustment to a condition that deserves real support. Baby blues usually appear a few days after birth and can last up to 2 weeks. They come with crying spells, mood swings, irritability, and heightened sensitivity. But even in the middle of all that, there are still moments of relief, brief windows where you can laugh, breathe, or feel like yourself. The feelings come and go like waves. Postpartum depression feels different. It doesn't just wash over you, it settles, it stays, and it often feels heavier than anything you expected. Instead of moments of relief, you feel a constant weight in your chest. Instead of emotional ups and downs, everything feels flat, empty, or hopeless. You're not just overwhelmed, you're disconnected. One of the biggest red flags is when sadness starts interfering with your ability to function or bond with your baby. You might feel numb while holding them, or guilty because the love doesn't feel instant. You may withdraw from your partner, avoid asking for help, or feel like you're failing everyone. Some mothers describe it as watching my life from the outside or feeling trapped inside myself. Physical symptoms can appear too: loss of appetite, insomnia, even when the baby sleeps, panic attacks, or constant exhaustion that sleep can't fix. And while baby blues rarely come with intrusive thoughts, postpartum depression sometimes brings frightening ideas you don't understand or want, thoughts you're ashamed to say out loud, thoughts that make you fear you're not safe inside your own. These thoughts don't make you a bad mother. They make you a mother in distress. Another important sign is duration. If your sadness lasts more than 2 weeks or keeps getting worse instead of easing, that's not baby blues. That's your brain asking for support. And the earlier you get help, the faster you recover. Postpartum depression is not a personal failure. It's not a lack of love. It's a medical condition. Real, treatable, and far more common than most people admit. The bravest thing you can do is speak up. You deserve to feel like yourself again. And with the right support, you absolutely can. When you're in the thick of postpartum sadness, it can feel like nothing will ever help. But small, realistic, compassionate steps can make a powerful difference. And the key word here is realistic, not the kind of advice that tells you to sleep when the baby sleeps or suddenly start a meditation routine while you're bleeding, exhausted, and barely holding yourself together. I'm talking about steps that fit into the life you're living right now. One of the most effective things you can do is lower the bar of self-expectation. Not forever, just for now. Your only job in this season is to heal and care for your baby. That's it. Dishes can wait, laundry can wait, messages can wait. Every time you choose rest over pressure, your nervous system gets a chance to breathe, and that breath matters. Another powerful tool is asking for help, but in a way that feels manageable. Instead of the overwhelming "I need help," try delegating one tiny, clear task. Can you bring me a meal? Can you hold the baby for 20 minutes? Can you fold this basket of clothes? People often want to help. They just don't know how. Giving them something specific opens the door. You can also create micro moments of grounding throughout the day. Not big rituals, micro ones. Put your hand on your chest and take one deep breath before you pick up the baby. Step outside for 30 seconds of fresh air. Drink a glass of water while standing in sunlight. These tiny interventions send signals to your brain that you're safe, even when everything feels chaotic. Connection is another lifeline. Talk to someone who gets it. Another mom, a friend, a partner, a professional. You don't need to tell your whole story. Sometimes just saying "today was hard" is enough to release the emotional pressure building inside you. Silence makes sadness grow. Connection makes it soften. And don't underestimate the power of nourishment. Your body is healing from a major event: blood loss, hormonal shifts, tissue repair. Eating enough protein, staying hydrated, and keeping simple snacks nearby can stabilize your energy and mood more than you realize. This isn't about dieting or eating perfectly. It's about feeding a body that's doing the hardest work of your life. Above all, be gentle with yourself. Healing doesn't happen in one big transformation. It happens in dozens of small choices that tell your body and mind, "I'm here, I'm trying, I matter." And you do. You matter more than you've been told, and more than you've allowed yourself to believe. There's something incredibly powerful that happens when you hear another mother say, "I felt that too." Suddenly, the shame loosens, the fear softens, the loneliness cracks open just enough for light to enter. And that connection, knowing you're not the only one who cried in the shower, who felt numb holding your baby, who wondered if you'd ever feel normal again, can be the beginning of real healing. You are not meant to go through this in silence. Motherhood was never designed to be a solo journey. For thousands of years, women raised babies in communities, sharing stories, sharing burdens, sharing nights, sharing tears. But today, so many mothers are isolated, scared to admit they're struggling because they think everyone else is doing better. The truth is, so many women are walking through the same emotional storm you're in right now. They just don't say it out loud. When you talk to another mother, whether online, in a support group, or with a trusted friend, you realize that your feelings are not signs of weakness. They are signs of humanity. And when you find spaces where you can speak honestly, without judgment, something in your chest finally relaxes. You stop pretending, you stop performing, you stop hiding, and that honesty becomes a lifeline. Support can come in many forms. Maybe it's a therapist who helps you understand your emotions. Maybe it's a postpartum group where women share their raw, unedited experiences. Maybe it's a family member who listens without trying to fix you. Maybe it's a friend who says, "Come as you are," and means it. Or maybe it's simply hearing another mother online say the exact thing you were too afraid to admit. What matters is this: you deserve people who make you feel safe enough to be real. You deserve to be surrounded by voices that remind you you're not broken. You're navigating something huge. And if you feel disconnected right now, it doesn't mean you'll stay this way. Connection grows slowly, like a tender root finding soil. Every time you open up, even a little, you water that root. You are not alone in this sadness. You are not alone in this transformation. And even if it doesn't feel like it today, there are women, communities, professionals, and hands reaching toward you. Let them reach you. Let them hold a piece of the weight. You were never meant to carry all of this by yourself. The sadness you've been carrying is not a personal flaw. And it is not a sign that you're failing as a mother. It's a sign that you've lived through one of the most intense physical, emotional, and psychological transitions a person can experience. Your hormones shifted overnight, your identity changed, your responsibilities multiplied, your sleep disappeared, and through all of that, you were expected to stay calm, grateful, composed. That expectation alone could break anyone. But now you understand what's happening inside you. You know this sadness has reasons. You know the weight you feel is real, valid, and shared by countless women who walked this path before you. And knowing that is the first step toward healing. Your journey through postpartum emotions is not something you need to hide. When you speak honestly, when you ask for help, when you allow yourself to rest, you're not being weak. You're being wise. You're giving your body and mind the support they need to find balance again. As you move forward, keep a few things close. Lower the expectations you place on yourself, even if only for now. Ask for small, specific help. Create tiny grounding moments throughout your day. Nourish your healing body. And stay connected with people who make you feel seen and understood. Postpartum sadness doesn't define you. It doesn't measure your love for your baby, and it certainly doesn't predict your future as a mother. This is a chapter, not the whole story. And it's a chapter you can walk through with compassion, support, and knowledge. If this video spoke to you, let your voice be part of the conversation. Share your experience in the comments. Someone else might read your words and finally feel less alone. And if you're still in the thick of it, remember, this season will not last forever. You are changing, adjusting, becoming. Give yourself the same grace you would offer to someone you love. You deserve care. You deserve support. And you deserve to feel well again. If this message brought you clarity or comfort, share it with another mother who might be struggling in silence. Leave a comment telling me how this phase has been for you. And don't forget to subscribe so Voca nunca mais enfrente o puer pareo sozinha.